Hi everyone, welcome back to my craft studio. I am Sandy. If you happen to be new, I want to just say a huge thank you to all the folks who watched my most recent video. It was the Bee Summer inspired video collaboration that I did with Rach and Bella, and I loved it. I'll link it down below if you missed it. But a lot of the comments I got were so sweet, and well, all of the comments I got were so sweet and so awesome. And some of the comments, folks really appreciated me showing how you could use your Cricut to cut out these digital files that we buy, and also showing how you could resize them. And I didn't go into a lot of detail in that video on how to do that. And so this video is kind of showing you step by step how to upload it, how to separate the images, resize them, and then cut them out. So I had a lot of fun. This digital kit is from Dear Julie, but you can use this with any digital kit. The one I did on the previous video was a Rach and Bella digital kit. So yeah, I do not like to fussy cut. So I love being able to use my Cricut to do this. But I just want to say thank you to everyone who watched my video. I'm a very small YouTube channel, and it meant the world to me. I usually don't get very many comments, and it was so nice getting all these encouraging comments to keep me motivated and keep me going. Because as you all know, as a creative person, you know, you can't just create if you're not in the mood to create. And, you know, being able to participate in this collaboration, just that love from all of the other junk journalers and crafters and creators, really is important. It's important that we support each other, and important we share the love with one another. And I really felt it on this last video. I read every single comment. I replied to every single comment, and you know, we should find our joy internally. I get that. I shouldn't need validation from anyone else on the art that I create, but it still is nice to be recognized and appreciated, and that just meant a lot to me. And that's why, you know, shout out to my patrons. All of my patrons are so amazing and supportive, and they keep me going. And I do have a few open spots, and I've opened a new tier on my Patreon if you'd like to join. I have some fun things for the remainder of the year. You can check them out over there on my Patreon site, and also have videos that are exclusive for my patrons. And yeah, so I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who watched my video and commented. And yeah, so let's get going on this project. When you open up Cricut Design Space, you'll usually come onto this home screen right here, and then you want to create a new project. So you can either click on the new project button here, or go over to these three lines, which are often called a hamburger, and click on canvas. So either way works. And then you'll come up with a blank screen right here. And then to upload an image, you go over here and click on the upload button. And you can see some of the images here that I have already uploaded, but I'm going to do another one just so you can see how it works. So I clicked on upload and then click on browse. You can also drag and drop your image. And I am going to find the image I am looking for. I'll try this one. And you can see all the images right here. And 99% of the time, I click on complex. So I'm going to click on that and then hit the continue button. And here is where you want to remove the background so that when you want it to cut, it'll cut just the image. So there's a couple different ways you can do an automatic background. I find this does not work very well, so I do the manual method, and I click on this select right here. It's highlighted gray, and then I go and click on the background, and you give it a minute, and you can see how the background disappeared, and that all those X's in the background, that shows you that that's not part of the image. That's just the background. And another way you can double check things is you can click on this preview cut image, and when you click on that, it'll show you what it's going to cut out. And you can see there's a couple little areas right here, so you can clean those up. And I'll zoom in a little bit. You can see them right here. Those are just some areas that didn't get cleaned up very well. So I'm going to hide the cut image, and you can go in with this eraser, and you can make the size of the eraser bigger or smaller right here, and then the eraser shows up as a black circle. And see, if I make it bigger, then you can see the circle gets bigger. And what I'm going to do is zoom in and look for, oops. And so if you erase something you don't want to erase, then you just hit the back arrow, and that brings it back. So I think there was something up in here. So I'm just going to clean up there, and I'm going to make my circle a little smaller. And then I want to zoom in over here, and I can see that spot right there, and I'm going to erase that, and then I'm going to scan down. Okay, so there's one right here. I don't know, can I erase? Oh, I can erase in this view. Okay, nice. So that's a new feature, I think. So I am just going around, because if you leave all these little spots, the Cricut will think this is something that you want it to cut out, and it'll cut just like a tiny little hole on your paper, which, oops, isn't really what you want. So I'm going to finish cleaning these up, and then I'll show you the next step. A lot of times when you buy images, they won't have this much in the background, so you usually don't have to do this type of cleanup. So it just depends on where you get your digital. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. And then once you get your background cleaned up the way you want it, the other thing that you want to think about is, let me zoom back in, is like here, this is white right here. I didn't empty those out. And so it's up to you, it's personal preference, and like right in here, you can click on that and the background will remove, but then that's a little more of an intricate cut for the Cricut. So like I'm going to do this one in here just to show you. So I'm going to click on this little white space right here. Oh, go back to select and click on that white space and see how that disappeared. So it depends on what you want. Like I could click on this right here, but that's going to be really fragile, and I'll probably tear that when I'm working on it in here. And what I'll do is I'll just kind of ink those up if I don't have them cut out. But I cleaned this one out so we can see how that one cuts. So once you get everything cleaned up in the background the way you want it, then you hit the apply and continue button. And then you'll get two options. You'll get this cut image and the print and cut. And you want to make sure that you get the green highlight around the print and cut, because that's the one that you need if you're going to be doing print and cut. So I'm going to call this Flower and Roses ephemera. And I'm going to store this under my print and cut folder, and then I am going to hit upload. And when it's a big image like this, it can take a few minutes, so you just have to be patient. And you can see it uploaded, and then to add it to my canvas, I select and then click add to canvas. So that is how you can upload images to your Cricut. And you can see it came in super large, so I'm going to bring this down in size. There we go. For print and cut, you need it to be a certain size, and you can see over here this red exclamation point, and if you click on that, it tells you your image is too large for 8.5 by 11 letter paper. And so you can, they have changed the paper sizes, so you can, if you have a larger printer, a wider printer format, then you can change, you can do 8.3 by 11, 8.5 by 14, and then if you do have the larger format printer, then you can do the tabloid side as well. I just have a standard printer, so I'm going to leave it 8.5 by 11, and I am going to make this smaller. So the thing is right now it is 9 inches wide this way and 12 inches tall, and I can, if I want to, I could just make this smaller to where it gets to be the size smaller than the 6.7. Let's see, what is it? 7.3 by 9.5. So I need to be smaller than that, 7.03. So I make it down, and once you get it small enough, the red circle goes away. And then if you want to print all of these images, you can just print this entire sheet and you'll be good to go. Now, what I showed on my video the other day is, say there's only certain ones that you want to print out, or you want to make them very, very small. And so one way you can do it, if you still want all of them, you can make this teeny tiny here. This is 3 inches by 4 inches. So these are all really, really tiny here. But it's hard to tell what the individual size of each image is. So you can just play around with that if you want to. But like this is 5 inches by 6 inches. So these will be probably pretty small. But what I did on the other page is I sliced out certain images so that then I could control the size of each image individually. So let me show you how to go about doing that. You go over here to shapes, and I usually just work with a rectangle. And I take this rectangle, I hit the unlock button here on the size, and I change the size. So I'm going to try to do these 3 items right here. And I'm going to size this to be the size of these 3 areas here, these 3 items. And I'll send it to the back. So I just right click and hit send backwards, so I can make sure that all 3 images are in there. And then what you do is you select both your square and your image, and then hit the slice button. And now these are separated. Whoops, I did not want to do that. These are separated. And you can delete that, and you can delete that. And so now you have these 3. So now you can see that this is 1.78 wide by 3.69 tall. And if you wanted to separate these even further, then you just repeat the process. So you get your square, you size it, I'll send it to the back, and then I'll select both images and then hit slice. And now this is by itself. And so this is, you can see it's 1.5 inches wide by 0.7 inches tall. So if you want to make that even smaller, you can make that even smaller. So that's about 1 inch long by 1 inch tall. And you just repeat the process if you want to separate all of these, and that way you can individualize the size of these. So you could duplicate that butterfly, so you could have one that's larger and one that's smaller. And then when you're ready to print, you just hit the Make It button. Oh, I forgot. This is still too large, so I would have to bring this down, and then you hit the Make It button. And then it sorts everything out. So this is still all one file together, one image together. So that's why these are here, and then these other two butterflies are here, and then these two show up on this page. And you would just print it, and then it would cut it out. So I'll show you how to print and cut these out. The trick when you go to print, you want to hit the Send to Printer button, and you want to do the system dialog. You want to turn that on. With these, the print and cut, I think it's good to leave the bleed on so that if the cut is a little bit off, they have sprayed the ink a little bit beyond the image, and that way you'll get a decent cut. But you want to turn the system dialog on so that you can select the best print quality on your printer. So you click the print button, and for whatever reason, the way Cricut works, or I don't know if it's Cricut or if it's the computer, but your printer dialog will show up behind Cricut. So you have to close your Cricut window. See, here's my Cricut window, and I closed it. And then here's the printer dialog right here. And I have an Epson, and so I go down to media quality here, and I'm usually feeding from the rear tray because I'm using a presentation matte paper, and then I will click best. Auto select, I've clicked photo before, but honestly the auto select, it works just fine. I think I just focus on selecting best, and that works, and then I hit the print button. I've gone through and repeated that same process of creating a shape and then slicing each image out. Sometimes when they're fairly close together, it can be a little bit tricky, but the thing to do is to just, like this was kind of like right here next to this image, and the thing to keep in mind is that you can rotate these shapes like this. When the little arrow turns into a curved shape, then you can rotate it, and then you can kind of move it down and rotate it as you need, and then send it back. And you can zoom in so that you can see that you'll be able to get that whole image, and it's not touching this image. So it just takes a little bit of patience. But now I can pick and choose. Oops, I didn't want to delete that. I can pick and choose which images that I want to cut out, print and cut, and I can duplicate them. And so like if I just want to print out the butterflies, then I can do that. Or if I want to print them all out, I can still do that as well. But I can make them bigger or smaller, whatever size will work for my particular project. I printed out my images on a fairly, it's not a very thin copy paper, but it's still copy paper. And you really want to make sure you have a good sticky mat. The machines work so much better if it's a good sticky mat. So it just measures how big the image is, and now it's going to take all of its measurements for the print and cut, and then cut them out. light turns on so it can see and make the alignment. It knows where to cut the images. I'll be back once it's done. It took about 4 minutes to cut all these, which is a lot quicker than I could do it by hand. And I don't know if you can see, there's a couple little spots that I missed cleaning those up when I showed you how to remove the background. So it basically, the Cricut just kind of cut around those. All right, let's get this out of the machine and see how it did cutting them. A little trick to peel off the images, it's best not to just pull this straight up because the paper will curl. So it's good to flip the mat over and gently curve it back and then peel your items kind of away. And this keeps them from curling up. So I am just going to slowly take all these off, and then we'll take a look at them, see how well it did. I did not run a calibration, print and gut calibration before I did this, so we'll see if it did okay, or if I need to go back and calibrate my machine. Sometimes it will get misaligned, and so you have to run that calibration. If you have things stuck to your mat, I find that this Cricut scraper, and there's others that are similar, to just scrape the extra paper off the mat, it works really well. Let's take a look and see how these images turned out. So I think that that did a really good job. And I normally would ink up the edges. So even though I see a little bit of white there, and I would ink up this area. Now this image, let me find it. I cut out the inside piece there. Do you see that? It did a really good job because I made this smaller, I think. But look how it did a good job. So if you wanted it to kind of cut that out, you could do that. You just kind of have to do a little trial and error. And so then I would just ink up these edges, and then the white disappears. Look at that. It's so, now see, look, this one on this butterfly, it cut a little bit more white up at the top there. So I could possibly need to run a calibration on my Cricut, but most everything else, it did a fantastic job. And if they curl up a little, you just fold them back. Yeah, I could probably do a little bit of run a calibration on my machine. It could use a little bit of a calibration, but I'm super pleased with these. I'll be using these in a project that I'm working on with Dear Julie, and this is one of her kits, if I failed to mention that. Yeah, the butterflies, there's a little more white around them, but I just ink them up. Yeah, that looks nice. So that is how you upload an image, a digital junk journal kit image, and cut it on your Cricut. Makes fussy cutting a whole lot easier, and faster. All right, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video.